drink away my love for you.
All right. Hey, good evening, everyone, and to our listener audience on the West Coast, to our listener audience on the East, and also we can't leave you guys out Central Standard Time. Hey, welcome to Groove Swing Speaks right here on the Buzz, coming to you each and every Tuesday at 7 o'clock on the East Coast, 4 o'clock West Coast, and 6 o'clock Central Time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the set. Let's see. I see my brother Clayton Brown. He's there. You can allow your camera there, brother. Yes. All right, my brother Clayton Brown. I see brother Robert Hicks. Oh, sister Saburo Muhammad. Hey, thank you so much, my dear sister. I see Kasna Kasna Maat Ra. Hey, brother, how are you? All right. Let's see. And Tanisha might be joining us. Tiffany Hillier, she sent me a text and said that she's running a little bit behind. Now, we're trying to get our first guest on, and that is Dr. Toni Miles Maloney. And she's having a little technical problem getting in. We did a test yesterday, but we have our tech person. He's trying to help her out to get in. So I think what we'll do, we're going to start in reverse order until we make this happen. But before that, like I said, Brother Hicks, how are you today?
Blessed, very blessed. How's everybody doing today?
You're doing great. Hey, Clayton, how are you?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Good evening to all the brothers of Groove 5 Groove Social Fellowship Incorporated, and also our beautiful sisters of Swing 5 Swing Social Fellowship Incorporated. Good evening to all of you.
Good evening, fellow man.
And Sister Saburo, thank you so much. At the last minute, I called you, and you're so supportive. I also noticed that you share our post, and so I can't be more thankful for that. And so, thank you so much for doing that with us. And then, Brother Cosner, we're going to let you know. No one tells their story better than you. So we're going to
Right.
let you introduce yourself to the audience because your resume or your bio is quite extensive. A lot of great work, my brother. Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So my name is Felaman Kasna Maat Ra. I pledged spring 2000 at Grambling State University, which is the Tiger 5 chapter. Um, but by trade, I'm an educator. I've been an educator for over 17 years now. I've worked in different capacities from private school to charter school to public school. I got my first 8 years of my teaching career at an African Center private school called Roots Activity Learning Center, which was in Washington, D.C. And hopefully I'll be able to give a little bit more insight in regards to Groove's contribution to this particular institution. But my family and I decided to move down to Fort Worth, Texas about 8 years ago, 8.5 years ago. And since then, I worked in elementary school at the Leadership Academy at Como Elementary. I worked as a seventh grade math teacher at Wedgwood Middle School. And for the past 3 years, I was an instructional specialist for the Leadership Academy at Forest Oak 6. And so I worked more so with adults as opposed to directly with the children for the last 3 years. But of course, working with children is my first and main priority. And so I've always found ways to still
Mhm.
interact with the children, whether it's through a mentorship program or after school program or, or, or any other way to kind of reach the children as well. And so
Mm.
I recently resigned from the public school system with hopes of getting an educational consulting company started. So I just started an LLC called KMR, which stands for Knowledge Management Resources Educational Consultant LLC. I'm also the executive director for Arts Empowered Inc., which is an organization that focuses on art, financial literacy, as well as community development. And we're
Mm.
in the process of possibly opening up a micro school in the area dedicated to young boys from grades 5th through 8th with the school Freedom School of Arts and Entrepreneurship. And so, I'm wearing many hats right now, in addition to being a father and a husband. But, that's what we're here for, to try to live a purpose driven life as much as possible. and try to, make a lasting impact, not only directly to ourselves, but the people who are around us. And so that goes to the family, to the community, and for me, more specifically with the youth. That's my passion.
Wow, that's a man. That's quite a bit. So I'm glad you did it. I'm glad. I'm glad.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I admire and applaud you for everything that you're doing. And brother, sister Sabora, she is a children's advocate herself, as long with having her own company. And we'll talk about that before this program is over. We want Sister Sabora to tell people about your company and what you're doing. But as far as the youth are concerned, we had a heavy conversation last week because we had the pleasure of having your brilliant daughter on, Samaya Muhammad, on last week. And I was so impressed with her. And education, we all know, come on, come on. I mean, you must have a solid background in education. You know, I used to say a long time ago, I don't need to read every book in the library, but somebody point me in the direction where the library is so I can go and get it, get the information. So this is what we need to instill. And Sabura, remember we were talking about how you used to read to your children while they were in the womb. And brother Cosner, you are nodding your head right there. So, Bora, I want you to lead off with your comments or questions, and then we want to go around the table because this is going to be a heavy discussion. So, Sabora,
Okay, had to unmute myself. Good
thank
evening again. Yes. Um, I'm very impressed with you. That sounds really good as far as what you do with the children. Can you repeat the name of the organization? I had to go get a pen and paper.
brother
Can
Cosner,
you
can you hear that? Did you hear the
can you hear me?
question? Okay, we're having a little problem here. Uh, we can't hear you, brother.
Yeah, it was a little bit of difficulty with the headphones. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. You asked me a question, sister.
I did. Yes, sir. I was
I apologize.
asking, no problem. What is the name of your organization that you said you started? I had to go get pen and paper because that intrigued me. I like that.
Sure. Well, I have a nonprofit organization called Arts Empowered Inc. So I started the school under that umbrella, the Freedom School of Arts and Entrepreneurship, under that. And I just started an educational consulting company called KMR, Educational Consulting LLC.
And got it. And what made you do that
Started
to
an
create your
LLC.
own? Hmm.
Um, Definitely just to, start taking some ownership in some of the knowledge, experiences, and skills that I've kind of developed throughout the years. Again, like I was telling you before, I worked in private, charter, and public school. I taught first through eighth grade, a little bit of high school. And so I feel like I have a unique perspective on education, especially as it pertains to some of the strategies and tactics that I use to kind of reach my children, engage with them, and build relationships with them. And so I think it's just about that time, to be able to kind of venture off and be able to support other educators who may be struggling, with personal or professional goals, or just want to be able to enhance some of the things that they already have equipped with them, just to be a little bit more effective in the classroom. And I feel like I have something to offer through that journey with them and do it collectively. And so I just wanted to kind of navigate through a different type of space and kind of challenge myself, and have enough belief within myself to know that I do have something that I can offer to others, and and take some ownership with it.
That sounds wonderful.
So it's just about that time.
Right. And definitely as a black man, you definitely have something to offer.
I mean, at this age, it's really all about legacy building with me. I have two children. I have a 16-year-old daughter. She just turned 16, so definitely pray for me. And a 12-year-old son who's about to turn 13. And so this is, this is for them too, because I can't really talk about entrepreneurship and talk about ownership and black empowerment and all this stuff if I'm not exemplifying that or trying to set serve as a model for not only my children but other children as well. And so that was another reason why I wanted to start something on my own, is to be a model and example for them as well, to be about it
Wow.
as opposed to just talking about it.
Love it.
Well, that's fantastic. I couldn't wait to get my turn to speak to you, my brother. Uh, it's my pleasure to meet you. I'm a
Likewise.
fellowman as well. My name is Clayton Brown. I go by the name of Crow, the mystical blackbird. And
All
I'm
right.
also the president of the Virginia State University Virtual Alumni Chapter. But it's my pleasure to meet you, and I love your background because the fact that I am a fellow artist as well. So you were speaking my language. I don't want to get too much into it because I want to come back and get in depth into your art background, but I want you to have this platform to tell us what you're doing at this moment and what is that doing to impact our community.
So, as I mentioned before, I have this nonprofit organization, and through that nonprofit, I've been implementing several different community programs and events, just to kind of get the word out there on some of the things that we want to offer to the community. We just recently had a Young Entrepreneur Summit where we highlighted several young entrepreneurs within the Tarrant County area in here, Fort Worth, Texas, and around
Oh,
the area, just to kind of get their feet wet in regards to seeing some tangible results based off an idea that they may have had. So whether they already had a business established or this actual summit was an incentive for them to actually start something, we wanted to be able to at least expose them to the nature of small business, building your business acumen, working and networking with other people in the area, and really just think about in terms of Black excellence, how we can transfer some of the knowledge that we have obtained. Because I always talk about how our generation is really that generation who's starting to try to become a little bit more financially literate in different ways. And so it's our responsibility kind of to pass out information and that knowledge on to our children. And so, in addition to that community program, again, I just launched this LLC. And so I want to be able to collaborate with other educators, especially in preparation for the next school year, just to get them right and tight and ready for not only their own personal development, but also how they can be a little bit more effective in the classroom and working with their colleagues at their respective schools. And so that's pretty much what I'm doing now. Just again, because I resigned from the public school system, it's really just, going heads on as an entrepreneur, and as a proponent of the community and trying to just do my part.
no, that's fantastic. Now, before we get into your art and that background of your genre,
Yeah.
you use the term, you use a pedagogical
Pedagogical tool.
form,
Yes,
pedagogic. Say it for me,
sir.
because the fact is that's a tongue twister,
Yeah.
and you use this form of teaching.
Yes.
Could you explain
Pedagogical
it to
tool.
us?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And
Pe-
so I mean, as soon as I stepped into the classroom, that first day that I stepped into the classroom, I wanted to show myself. I wanted to humanize myself. I wanted to be a teacher that other students could relate to. That's something that I didn't necessarily have as a student myself. So since day one, when I first walked into the classroom, I brought my beat machine. So that's one of my form of artistry, is beat production and just having fun making beats. And so I brought my beat machine, explained how I make beats. I talked about how it involves mathematics and you know um, a little bit of history because I was sampling records that my parents listened to. And so I just had a whole little presentation based off how I love hip hop, and I just found a way to reach the children through this art form, and this culture. And so I just decided, from that first day, that I was going to find innovative ways to showcase things that I'm interested in, but also a way for us to kind of communicate, because hip hop is a form of communication. And so that was my way to not only bring myself into the classroom, but also to showcase that this movement was started by young teenagers, and is now a multi-billion-dollar industry where you can find it all over the world. And this was really literally started by children and teenagers and young adults, and so it's
Okay.
really just trying to provide some validity to who they are. Because if hip hop could start that and it still exists to this day and it's impacting the world, just imagine what they can do if they put a lot of time and effort and hone in some skills and think about what they're talented in, and think about how they can use their voice to kind of share that to the world, or at least to their community or to their boys or whoever they want to reach out to.
That's fantastic. So what I'm seeing and hearing from you, you're seeing that you basically reading your audience. So you're trying to figure out who this person is, and you're going to try to bring out the best of them. Because in art, as I went through, my instructors was looking at me like, this is what I see in this student right here. So
Mhm.
I'm going to try my best to draw the best out of that student for what they have to bring to the table. Because in the art form, everything is not going to be cookie cutter.
Right.
And I can see am I on the right track with what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I didn't want to assume that every young black and brown kid loves hip hop or knows anything about it, because
So
that's
you
not
use different
I,
genres or different mediums
well, that's
of
the
art.
beauty. Well, that's the beauty about hip hop, is that it samples and takes from everything, from country music to Latino music. I mean, from if any genre that you could think of, hip hop has sampled that in some shape or form. And that's why it's cross generational, but also it crosses, all over the world, because you can insert yourself within this particular culture and make it your own. And
Yes, sir.
so my assumption necessarily wasn't that every kid loved hip hop or was listening to hip hop or anything like that. I looked at the core elements of hip hop and looked at that as, certain things that children are innately already interested in. And so we have rap music, which is rhyme. We talk about voice, right? Sister Muhammad talked about how she read to her children when they were in the womb. So they're getting the cadence, they're getting the voice, they're getting all these different things from your voice before they're even kind of entering into this world. And when students and children start to learn, you use rhyme, right? You use rhythm.
Yes,
And so even if they necessarily never listen to rap or don't know who Tupac is, they know what rhyme and rhythm is, right?
I understand.
Same thing with breakdancing or b-boying. The need or the fulfillment to get on that ground because you're in a certain trance state. This is something that you see children do all the time. When you see first seeing them dance or learning how to dance, they're going straight to that floor. You know, they're not doing it. They might
And
be trying to
also
do
what and also what I'm hearing that you are giving them the freedom.
the freedom, yes, to tap into something, because that's what education is. To tap into
That's it.
something that they already possess and try to make a connection between that and the content that they're learning. And same thing
Roger
with
that.
like graffiti, and coloring, and for filling in spaces with, with color, or even spaces that may not necessarily are necessarily conducive to a great living condition. You can still beautify it, based off what you already have. And so the essence of graffiti, or trying to make something beautiful and trying to get your name tag all over the city, or to be heard because you're the voice of the voiceless. Again, all these different elements of hip hop are certain things that we are interested in as children, anyways. And we just evolved it into, what it is considered now, which is hip hop, but it may be something different tomorrow. That,
Absolutely. Now,
that same
yeah,
essence
now,
of
Sister
music.
Muhammad, did he answer your question, or do you have any other questions that you would like to ask the brother before I move on to Brother Hicks?
No, he did wonderful. Like I said, I'm intrigued.
Thank you.
Man,
Thank you.
so am I. So am I. Brother Hicks, greetings, my brother. Good to see you again.
Thank you, and good to see you, everyone here tonight. Film and Kasna,
What's going on, brother? How you
great,
doing?
very good, very good, and
Good, good,
thank you for being here on this 20th episode of Groove Swing
Hey,
Speaks. Just to let you
fantastic.
know
Congratulations. Nice, nice. Congratulations.
that. I noticed in your background that now you went from studying business management and graphic design, and then you
Yeah.
switched to doing teaching, masters of teaching. Tell me, when was the moment that you thought, hey, I actually have the gift here in a sense of doing teaching and reaching to maybe reaching, or when I would say this, when was that moment that you said, Felman Kasna, that I'm going to actually have a great career in life doing teaching versus
Wow.
business management, or even combining business management?
Sure. I mean, I will talk about a pivotal moment, but in hindsight, this was God's work since the beginning. You know, and that's what I'm saying. How much time do you have? You know, because I'll try to
I
cut
hear
it
you.
as short as
That's
much as
right.
possible. But this
That's
is
You
right.
got
definitely
time.
yeah, this is something that definitely has the hands of God and ancestors, you know, throughout my whole life, you know. So I've always found myself, you know, sharing information, you know. So talk, especially as it pertains to hip hop, you know, I was always the person who was finding the latest beat tape or mixtape and or the newest artist, and I was like, hey man, you heard about this guy? It's like so that a lot of people just knew me from just trying to share that information, you know, early on as a teenager. But you know, yes, I graduated from Grambling State University with a major in business management with a minor in computer science. Early on, my major was computer science, but I figured that I only liked the math classes. I really didn't like the programming, you know, and, and I really
Say
was just
that
getting
again, bro.
into
Say
it.
that again.
Man, but it really was trying to follow my brother's footsteps. He went to Grambling State University. You know, he was in computer science. You know, he just graduated and working at State Farm, so he has some stability. You know, and I know they do have a good program down at Grambling, but I learned early on that that's something I just didn't want to do, and so I really couldn't even tell you why I started business management, but it's just something that you know I thought was logical. You know, getting into business. And so I changed it to that as a major and then computer science as a minor. But you know, as far as Groove is concerned, because Groove plays a huge part in this. You know, I pledged Groove when I was 18 years old, the second semester freshman in college, and so I've been in this organization for 24 years. Um, and so I say that because this is the first time that I met people who look like me, who had various different perspectives, but they all were about knowledge of self or knowledge about something, you know. And so
Absolutely.
everybody had their own way to articulate the things that they knew, and they had unique perspectives that I was intrigued with. And so when I was online, they exposed me to different literature that kind of opened my eyes to a whole new way of thinking, a whole new um, worldview, if you will. Um, and so, you know, once I graduated, um, wow, okay. So once I graduated from Grambling State University, I was in contact with several brothers throughout the whole nation. So we were really close with brothers from Morehouse College. We were real close with brothers from Benedict, Hampton University. We would always go to this thing called Groove Road Rules, where we would, because you know we're in Grambling, Louisiana. We're in a small town. There's nothing to do, and so we would always find our way traveling up the East Coast. And so we would visit our brothers from Morehouse and Hampton and Benedict, um, and Maryland Eastern Shore. And there was one brother that I got to be real close with, my line brother, who is Thomas Daniel. I don't know if anybody's familiar with him. Um, but he pledged at Hampton Spring 2000. And when I first graduated from Grambling, I know that I did not want to live in Louisiana and I wanted to move back up to the East Coast, to Maryland, D.C. area. And so all the jobs that I was applying for were for that particular area. And so I ended up getting an interview for an institution called the Export. Well, it was called Real Estate Recovery, but it was for a contract position for the Export Import Bank of the United States. And so I went for an interview, but I didn't have any place to stay. My plan was
Mm.
to go out there. I had a little bit of money. I was just going to go out there and just sleep in my car until I had an interview like 2 days afterwards. But so happened, you know, mind you, I'm driving from Louisiana to DC, and I'm in
Mhm.
Virginia, caught in traffic, and lo and behold, Thomas Daniel calls me on the phone, and he's just
Mm.
like, "Hey, brother, hey, I'm just reaching out to you, checking in on you, you know, seeing how you doing." It's like I'm actually out this way, you know, I'm actually out in the DMV area, and you know, and he's like, "Where you staying now?" I was like, "I really don't have a place to stay, you know, I just graduated, I got this interview." I was gonna sleep in the car. He's like, man, you don't need to sleep in the car. Go ahead and come stay with me.
No.
No,
And
that's
so
not.
I ended up staying with him and his girlfriend at the time, and both of them were teachers. Um, and so this again, I didn't even think about education at all during this time. I was thinking about computer science, business management, in that kind of realm. But I got to see every single day for about a month the life of a teacher. Them lesson planning, them going to different events, them talking about the children, the parents, the ups and downs of being an educator. Um, but after staying with them for a month, again I did get the interview, I did get the job, and so I stayed with them for a month until I got my own place. And then during that time, I had two separate brothers stay with me, who both went to Morehouse College, and who were educators as well. One was by the name of William Thomas. He goes by Hoppy, and Jamil
Mhm.
Shaka Jones. And both of them were educators at an African Center school called Roots Activity Learning Center. So again, they stayed with me for about a month while they tried to get their life situated because they just graduated. Um, and again, just kind of returning the favor, allowing somebody to come stay with me. And again, I was close with them, but I got some insight in regards to the life of an educator. But again, this time is in a private school. Where kids have African names and they're pouring libation, and so this is a whole different scene than what Thomas was going through. But again, I got the job. I was bored out of my mind, working behind the cubicle at the Export-Import Bank in the United States, right across from the White House, making good money, But it's like, this is not something I'm supposed to be doing. This, I,
Yeah.
I'm making this good money. I'm living right. I'm good, but it just wasn't fulfilling. I just knew this is what I wasn't supposed to be doing. And it just so happened that Jamil Shaka Jones, one of the group brothers who I mentioned before, mentioned one day, it was like, man, you ever thought about teaching? And I was like, no, not really. Now, mind you, we did start like a summer school together, both Shaka and I, because he was working with the New Black Panther Party for a little bit. And so at their headquarters, we actually started kind of a summer program, a summer school, for the New Black Panther Party. So that was kind of like my first kind of delving into education, but not necessarily inside of a classroom. But again, this was like months later. Again, we're all established, getting into work and getting into life. But he just mentioned it one day. It was like, man, you ever thought about teaching? I was like, no, not really. Um, he was like, well, we have an open position at our school, Roots Activity Learning Center, and I think you should, go for an interview. Um, and so I decided to go for the interview. At that particular time, I was at Howard University, getting my master's in graphic design. And one of my assignments was to create a children's book. And so at this particular time, my name is Jeffrey Vincent. Some brothers may remember me as Jeffrey Vincent. I didn't have my African name at this particular time. But I created this character named Baba Ra, who showed kids about hip hop all around the world. It was kind of like the Afrocentric version of Magic School Bus. I called it the Magic Freedom Bus. And so when I went to the interview, I showed them this book that I made, and told them about my brief experience working at this summer school with the New Black Panther Party. And then, of course, we did community service projects at Grambling working with children. And so that's all I had. I didn't have any other experience working with children. But for some reason, they found something in me and saw something within me, and they hired me on the spot. And they threw me in the classroom the next day. and and I just kind of just learned from that, learned from my conversations that I've had with those particular brothers who I mentioned before, and again, trying to be unique and different and try to bring something worthwhile into the classroom to make their experiences and my experience, worthwhile. Because I definitely didn't want to be bored, working. I wanted to enjoy myself and what I did. But it took me a long time to learn the difference between having joy and fun in the classroom and being effective and engaging. And so it took me
Brother,
a
it
long
sounds like you had a lot of fun doing what you do. And
man,
I appreciate what you're doing because when you start taking the fun and the joy out of it, what kind
sure.
of meaning does it really have? And I saw that our sister Tiffany was on. And before we get to her to ask her a question, I see that you received the Wanda Clay Education Award from
I
our
did.
illustrious Sisters of Swing Five Swing Social
I did.
Fellowship.
I did. And my wife is a member of Swing Five Swing as well. And
Wow.
Fantastic.
so yeah, there's no escaping it.
No escape.
There's
Wow.
no
The black
escaping
and
it.
white, white and black.
I wish you had brought her on with you, man. That would have been so cool too.
Cool.
And
Well,
so
she's actually there's actually some sisters who are in town, and so she's out with the sisters right now. They having their fun. So
oh man, this is so great. Hey,
yeah,
thank you so much. And so we have also Dr. Toni Miles Maloney. She was supposed to go on the first hour, and so she's having trouble getting in right now. So we kind of switched it up a little bit. Thanks, Clayton, for suggesting that we kind of switch it up a little bit, and so hopefully we can get her on the second hour. But I tell you what is, and I missed a lot because I was out on the phone with her trying to get her. Oh, here it is, Robert, brother Hicks. He's so fast, man. Typing, he types a lot faster than I do. I'll tell you right now. I flunked typing, but that's okay. I didn't like it anyway. But anyway, that's a whole different story. My brother sitting next to me, he's also, I'm his older brother, and he's also a brilliant artist and a graphic artist in his own right. And so I'm passionate about that. And so tell us, now you're not in the class. You're not in the classroom now, if I understand.
right. I've been out of the
You're not in the
classroom
classroom now.
as far as having my own classroom for the past three
Okay.
years. And so,
Uh,
as an instructional specialist, I have several people under my team, and I observe, go into their respective classrooms, providing some feedback, whether it's in real time or afterwards. And during that time, also pulling small groups and working with children if I see a specific
mhm,
needs that need to be fulfilled, or addressing certain things that I see immediately. And so it's just really just a support system for other educators. But again, during that time, I was still um, spearheading the mentorship program, so I still wanted to work with young boys. And so I've always, again, still tried to find ways to interact with the children, despite not necessarily having my classroom my own for the past 3 years.
mhm. With our panelists, Brother Hicks and Sister Sorora, and also Sister Tiffany, and my brother Clayton here, we are big on education and also motivating and inspiring our young adults. And I can hear it in your voice and the way you speak that you are inspired or you have a passion for what you do. Kind of tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, for my passion for education.
Your passion, yes, sir.
Yeah. It's something that comes naturally for whatever reason. Those people who kind of know me know that my line name is Best Kept Secret. And so I've always been known as a quiet, kind of introverted person, but been able to perform at high levels when called upon, if you will.
Mm,
And so that's kind of how I am in the classroom too. I just kind of transform into something, my higher self, if you will.
mm,
Is it something that clicks? It just automatically comes on. And so this is early on. I knew that this was something that I was supposed to be doing because I felt so comfortable doing it. Um,
mhm,
but I think my biggest passion is really just the relationships that I have with the students that I've had for the past 17 years. Um, and I still um, have contact with several of my previous students. Some of them, have children of their own. Some are married now. Some have went out to college. And so I've always found ways to build relationships with the students who I've interacted with. And
mm,
so, and then also just having um, the understanding that we all have some kind of suffering. And because I know that we all suffer in some capacity, that develops a certain type of compassion or empathy for specifically children, because here they are 10 years, 12, 13 years in the world, and we expect them to know it all because of our expectations, or preconceived notions of what they're supposed to know, at that
mm,
particular age. But I just found it more effective meeting people and children where they are. And so I just want to be able to treat them how I wanted to be treated, how the inner child still wants to be treated, because I think we still embrace that in some way. We all still have an inner child that needs to be nurtured. I think we all still have, some gaps that still need to be filled in from things that we may have lacked through our own childhood, and whether we're trying to make it up through our own lives or through our occupation or through our vocation. I think that we all should have some kind of compassion, when we're working with other people, other
Mm.
human beings.
So
And
true,
so I
so
just
true.
have a, and so working with children, I just feel like they have a certain delicacy that we need to honor and be able to acknowledge because they're still trying to figure it out. And
I
Right.
I just
totally agree with you, brother, because the fact is, who are we to impose our will on someone else? Because they wasn't built to appease us, to do what we expect. And when you say our expectations, and when we put that on someone else, we're expecting them to follow the line.
Mhm.
So, and I understand the way you use your education system, and I love it because, like we said before, you give them the freedom to be who they are, and you're reaching for that spiritual guidance that tells you how to best do that. And I see my sister Tiffany; she's on board. And Tiffany, greetings, good to see you, sister.
Yes, sir. Hello, hello, everyone, and hola, my sisters. Hello, my brothers. Please forgive me for being late. I want to say it is great to be here, and I was reading your bio, and I just want to get an understanding. How do you say your name? Because I know you say you have a different name now.
Kasna Maat Ra.
Kasna. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. So awesome. I see that you have a Bachelor of Arts in animation, correct?
In
Is that
animation,
correct?
no, no.
That's what
I
it
have a
says.
bachelor's in business management with a minor in computer science, and then I have a master of arts in teaching in education.
Okay. Awesome. I'm sorry. Forgive me. All right. Question.
Hmm.
Is still good though. When you say that you still have a relationship with your students, some have gone on to college, some have gotten married, have kids of their own now. Um, do you see that as a revolving door as far as in terms of when you was in school? Did you have that same type of relationship with some of your teachers? Or is that something new?
I think that's something new. I don't recall as a child growing up the amount of attention, um, affirmation, validity um, that a lot of children seek nowadays. Um,
Mm,
and so when I was growing up, we did a lot of things on our own. I was just talking to my children the other day. We hardly it was ever inside. We was always outside. Um, and but I still was able to finish my homework. I was still able to get everything in that I wanted to get in addition to going outside and being wild and being free. And so the necessity to be able to even have a relationship with some of the adults in my life wasn't as much needed as I see now. Um, and so the whole notion of building relationships students in order to be effective. Some people don't necessarily fully agree with that because they have that mindset of how some of us kind of grew up, where the children kind of stood in their place and the adults had
Hmm.
their place, and there wasn't that many mingling or interactions or lines that were kind of sometimes crossed, in order to kind of build that relationship. And so there definitely needs to be boundaries because we're in an institution, because we're at a school, um, but again, I've always looked at it as a village. If I'm going to interact with the children, then I need to make sure that I'm interacting with the parent as well, and making sure that we all are a community trying to raise this child. Um, and so again, everybody doesn't need that though. Every child doesn't need that relationship. Some children
Right.
just need to give me my information, give me my work, leave me alone, let me do my thing, and and so that's fine too. And so I just take it by case basis. There are relationships that I have stronger with some children that I have with others. Some students probably don't even remember me, while some will probably never forget me. And so because I've been in education for over 17 years, I've had experiences in all those different dynamics. Um, but I do feel like children these days do need a, a, a safe space to lend their voice.
Mhm.
And so relationship that they have with the adult in that classroom is, you know, um, highly important for them to be able to feel safe, to be able to lend that voice. Because if they don't, then that's when they rebel. That's when they have misbehavior. And so I just try to find effective ways to allow them to lend their voice. We call it the student voice, but also being able to provide a guiding and support system for them, and still let them know that I'm the adult in the classroom, but I'm also here to be able to be more than just that, because that's just
Mhm.
part of the job, if you allow it to be.
That's a great answer. Great question, Tiffany, and great answer, my brother. I tell you, like we said, a Groove Swing Speaks. Uh, it is more than a radio program. It is more than a radio program because we want to provide information, inspiration, motivation for all adults and our young adults and our children. So I advise that any of us who have children, the grandchildren, and so on, have them to come and listen to this program because we bring on professionals each and every week that can add value to your goals or your dreams and wherever you want to go. And sister, oh my God, Toni Miles Maloney, how are you?
Oh my God, I'm here. It was a journey.
It was a journey trying to get here.
Yes. And to my brother Robert, thank you for being that daytime daddy. Thank you for showing them what a man does and how much a man is important in the journey of matriculation through education. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I tell you, and Brother Cosner here, he's a wealth of information. And I thank you so much, my brother, for what you bring to the students. And what I find a little bit more, you bring the passion to it. And also, I can think, I think if I were a student in your class, I would say, this is one educator that cares, that really cares. And I think children need to know that. Sister Maloney, we're going to bring you on next year, but I want Sabura to jump in on that because she has a passion for our children too and child development as well as our entire panel. Uh, uh, Sister Sabura,
Yes, sir.
yes. Let's talk about children being able to trust the educator. I think that is so important that they trust the person that's disseminating the information, and also someone that, uh, and all of us want to know that someone cares about what we're doing. And I can tell throughout the panel, we are passionate about what we're doing. Brother Cosner, he's passionate about what he does. And with you mentoring children, also, Sabor, kind of tap into what he says or what he's saying and kind of give us an idea on your approach also to nurturing and our children educationally and their development.
Right. Okay. Um, Basically, he said everything I would say, and that passion, I feel it because that's exactly how I am. Even as I have sub and have been a TA in the school system here where I live. Um, I don't come at them, and I think that's key.
Ooh.
Like I'm the adult, I'm the authority. I don't do that. I basically, and plus we all know what kids do to sub. So they usually don't pay you any attention, but I don't never give them that energy when I go in. I, announce who I am. And like brother Kasna said, uh, letting them know who I am. So it's like that open. I'm open to them, and basically, even at that point, listen, I tell them I'm not your teacher. However, I need you to do what the teacher asks you to do. And I'm pretty free. You could sit where you are. You could, long as you don't have an office coming to me complaining, just kind of be them and they fall into place. So I just noticed that with some of the children, if there is a child who may want to give me a hard time, the other ones will jump right in and like, no, 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 she's cool, she's good, and I don't have any problem. But it's all in there. I don't come in there like I'll run you. I'm the boss. And then it's sad because a lot of them will start opening, not sad in that way, but they open up and they're like, well, we get subs if we sleep, fall asleep on them, just there for the paycheck. And that's never,
Mm,
never my intentions. Never how I'm not like that. I'm definitely an interactive person. And I just like listening to their minds, what they think,
absolutely.
and exploring them, bringing out of them what's already in them. So I would say, even as a sub, a TA, I've worked in after school. I've had my own summer enrichment program. That's always um, my point, or how I am, is to look at them for who they are and naturally letting them gravitate, because right, it's not a cookie cutter. And that's one of those reasons why I never wanted to be employed by the school system. I like freedom, and I can't have freedom to talk to them the way I may need to talk to them without probably getting in trouble. But so that's just how I am.
You know what I'm hearing from you is that
Got to keep it professional. I'm not their friend. It's that level of, what do you call it? I'm not going to be their friend, but a respect level. You respecting
Mhm.
me, I'm respecting you, and that's how we go.
Right. You know what I'm hearing from you is that you don't talk at them, you talk with them,
Yes, sir.
and you
Mm-hmm.
try to meet them where they are. And this is what I'm getting from Brother Kasna and
Mm-hmm.
Sister Maloney, Dr. Toni Miles Maloney. We're going to focus on you next in the next few minutes or so. But I'd like for your take on this education, the little that you've heard so far. Okay, because you were supposed to go on first, and then we had to go through a little technical challenges, and that's
Yeah,
all right. We got it, and we
yeah.
have you here now. But I want you to chime in and give your take on what you've heard so far.
Well, first of all, as my degree is in health education, so I've been an educator for close to 50 years.
Wow.
So I appreciate listening to my brothers and sisters that have chosen the vocation of education. But on the flip side, and to my sister, thank you for doing those after school programs, empowering my brother. Just thank you for being in the room. But what I've done is,
Hmm.
once I retired, I set up a system because of COVID, that I was looking at how many parents were struggling because they had their children at home and they didn't know what to do with them. But they
Hmm.
had to be on the computer, doing work. So I developed the AOS Grandma School, which is the Academy of Scholars.
Hmm.
And so what I've been doing is, and I have 5 students that I interact with, and my first student was my granddaughter. So, we have gone through the process of when we would go out, we would do earth science, we would learn about traffic, we would learn about anything that we saw, that was a teachable moment. And children like to be interactive, and
Mm.
they like rules regardless of what they might bucket you about not wanting rules, but they like rules. They like rules because it tells them which direction they're going and how they're going to achieve that. School is fun. Now, they might not agree, but I think school is the greatest thing in the world. And the best thing they ever taught me was with that little Jack and Jill C spot runs, was to teach me how to read, because I am a voracious reader. And, anytime I run into a new parent or a grandparent that is, being an educator to their grandchildren, or, any child, is use Bob's books. Do you all know about Bob? So Bob is a
The little
series of
cat,
books. I'm sorry?
the little black cat.
Well, no, Bob is a whole series that teaches, they move up in progression, and it gives them sight words that they can remember. Like my granddaughter always reads to me about hat, hat, hat. And there's a tall hat, there's a small hat, there's a round hat, there's a floppy hat. And she doesn't realize that through repetitiveness, and I don't care what anybody says, our children of color, do better when you do repetition. You can put them in open space all they want, but we need structure, because we just work better in structure. So because of that, you know, I'm always looking for something. You know, our libraries are the best place in the world for our children to go on the computer. They have beyond the book. There's a whole series that every quarter they give you a free hardback book that might be the last one I got was about called The Water Maker, which was all about Native Americans and how this little girl learned about the tradition of water. So again, I am just incredibly proud of what we are doing. We are educators, and we come from a tribe of educators, which are our parents, our grandparents, and any other person that we interact with. So my hat is off to all of y'all.
Dr. Maloney, this is Clayton Brown, Fellowman Clayton Brown. And what I'm hearing from you, and I agree on that aspect as well, children need more structure. And on the other side, where I'm listening to my brother Kasna, he has more of a liberal, free uh, path to education. I'm not saying that you stuck on structure or he's stuck in one way of teaching as well, but I see two different ways of getting what their children need, and I believe it needs both.
Oh yeah, well, structure.
Am I on the right path with that? Saying
Oh,
that?
oh yeah. I mean, structure doesn't have to be. You go into the classroom, sit at your seat, take out your notebook. We stand up, say the Pledge of Allegiance. For some of that's how we were taught. But structure can be. They understand that at a certain time we're going to do centers. They understand that at a certain time we all are going to sit in the circle and have a discussion. That's structure for them. And it might be not the traditional way, but it's still a form of structure. And I like the brother saying that, he is giving our children an opportunity to express themselves, because they need to. I mean, brilliant minds have come out of these young folks that are changing the world. So I'm with you on that. They still need structure.
I understand, and I'm absolutely on board as well. Uh,
It needs
because
to
I'm
be a
learning,
balance. You can
but
be structured and
what
still have that freedom like that.
For sure.
that
Exactly.
that
Sure.
is true.
It's a
Yeah.
balance.
Can I
Yeah.
ask this? Can I ask this question? Is there a particular age or where you feel like that child is developed enough to say, okay, uh, you break a little bit of that structural barrier and start setting them free?
Setting them free, how? What do you mean?
What their way of thinking? Say, for instance, you got a child, he's not or she's not, she can't deal with structure. As you can see, some of these advanced students, sometimes they are held back actually by structure, where you need to just go ahead and let them freedom mindset. I understand education because we all went through it. Uh, but I also, as an educator myself, in a sense, know that when you start to structuring too much, at what age do you start letting that child develop as his gifted mind tells him to?
Well, there's a book that's called Everything I Needed to Know I Learned in the Kindergarten.
Uh huh.
That's a whole lot of truth to that. And, that's engaging the parents when they see that their child is bored. And you know how to stimulate a child. You give them something else to read. Like one of the children that I have, that I take care of, he is 9 years old. He is reading on a seventh grade reading level.
Hmm.
He is a voracious reader. And, they went through those graphic novels, and I said, okay, look, you know what? We don't need to look at pictures. You know these words. Anytime you're riding and you see something on a billboard and you ask me, a perfect example, he asked me, he said, Miss Toni, what is human trafficking?
Uh huh.
So that meant that I had to be on my A game to explain to him what that meant. And I try to introduce him, given when you see a child is gifted like that, you just drop little pearls and say, oh, I saw this. I think this might be interesting to you. So it's whenever you see them, you know, wanting and being thirsty for more, give it to them.
I got you. And the reason why I asked that question, as a retired military person, there was ways of promoting yourself because there were some that learned differently.
Yes,
Some could not even take the aptitude test, but they were very good at their jobs because naturally they were just gifted.
right.
They could do the job, but they could not take a cognitive test as some people would, and that was their regular promotional test. So I use that as an example because people learn differently. They're built differently.
Well, I'm a visual learner.
I am as well.
You cannot give me a manual and say, put it together. I'm like, yeah, okay. So let me look at the box. I look at the box. I look at the pieces, and I'll figure out how to put it together. Same. I just went through that with an air conditioner. How to insert an air conditioner in a window, and I'm like, well, I don't need this piece because if I do this, it's gonna keep it stable and it's not gonna fall out the window. But that's me using my cognitive thinking skills and looking at how it's constructed so that it can stay and function the way I want. Now y'all pray that when the air conditioning don't fall out the window because I ain't use all the pieces. But it's working.
I understand.
But what do y'all?
And go ahead. Who
No, I
was
was
that
just saying.
speaking?
This is me, Cosna. I was just saying. What we're pretty much referring to is differentiation, where we take into account the learning styles of each particular student who is in your classroom or each particular student who you're working with. And so when we talk about learning styles, we have, audio learners, we have visual learners, we have bodily kinesthetic learners. And then if you look into Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence theory, we have about 9 to 10 different intelligences that we can tap into, some of them more than others. And so there's different ways that you can kind of measure not only the students' performance levels, but also what they're interested in and try to find some connection between the two of those. And so, yeah, we definitely shouldn't. And I think that's the biggest dilemma is that, as educators, we're always, told to differentiate our instruction with our students, but then they're not necessarily assessed the same way. They're all assessed, through, filling in a bubble, or providing some kind of constructive response. But just as much as students learn differently, they also are able to articulate or showcase the things that they learn differently as well. And I think that that's something that I think is wrong with the system as it stands now in regards to how we assess the brilliance of our children and their capabilities.
Yeah.
So it seems like what um, Sister Maloney is doing is, doing a more so homeschool approach, and being able to do it in a kind of a non-traditional setting, where she has a certain level of flexibility, where she can kind of honor, the performance of the students who she's working with, and kind of teach them in real time, some of the things that may be beneficial to their learning experience.
And I agree with both of you because both of those are very important. But from an artist standpoint, I can see how liberating it is when you're able to just use the liberal arts and what you taught through just naturally to express yourself. How valuable that is as opposed to the standardized way of learning. Understand the structure that the doctor is talking about is needed. You got to have that. But I more so understand how freely when you start to thinking about how the world works. And Tiffany and I understand my sister, we talked about spiritual thinking at one point. And I remember Kasna, you were saying about uh, elevating your mind and that spiritual aspect of bringing something to the table what God has given you. I know you all understand what I'm saying. I'm trying to articulate that as well as I possibly can, but nothing can compare to what you're naturally given through our God. He has given you a gift to present to the world, and through Cosmo's way of teaching, I can see where you are trying to bring that out the best way you possibly can, and I can see that through our doctor as well. You first have to have structure before you bring the other one. That's the reason why I asked the question: at what point do you just set them free? If that makes sense.
See, I don't think structure is not about confining that person. I don't think you ever get rid of structure. My son is on here. He's 30. I'm a structured person, but I notice my children, I have three, they were all at different levels of how they viewed school, what they wanted. So I couldn't use the same what applied to today is that's on here. That's my son, my oldest son. I didn't apply to my youngest son, and I didn't apply it to my daughter. They're three different personalities and what they wanted, but the structure never stops. He knows. He's texting something, but yeah. So he knows that. Like he was one of those children. I think Dr. Maloney. I think Tony, you said something where he was excelling a lot.
Right.
So in the school system, he wasn't being as challenged because they figure he's at the top of the totem pole. He gets it. We're more concerned about the ones who don't. So he was one of those children that he just heard it. He could hear it. He got it.
Right.
So the teachers would get agitated because it's like, well, he's reading a book in my class. And I was like, well, did he hear this? He got straight A's. He heard you. He didn't, it was that he couldn't he performed well, but he didn't like people reading to him. He liked to read it. He already finished the book. He would finish the test and they're like, oh, you're going to fail the test. Why? Which you even put that in a child's mind. He didn't fail the test.
Mm,
He just read faster and could comprehend. But it's like they couldn't really get that. So yeah, that's my part as a parent and an educator. I might not have letters behind my name, but I'm an educator. So I
mm,
taught him outside of school and I nurtured that. It might have even been things that I'm, he knows at one time I would just, he read Harry Potter books. Those are like what,
Yeah.
800 pages. He could read that in a day, in a
mm,
weekend. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't my thing for him, but I didn't shun him because I did not want him to stop reading. So that wasn't, my main, like, oh yeah, go read that Harry Potter book. But that's what he wanted to read. I let him do that. So even in a structure, we had the structure of we're a big reading family. However, I let them read what they wanted to read because it was still reading. And then I want to know
right.
about what they're reading. So it's a dialogue, but he'll tell you It's structured, but you still have a freedom. It's not a confinement. I'm not trying to put anybody in a box. So even with my program I did at home, because again, I like freedom. I'm a structured person. It might sound like it don't go together, but it can. My enrichment program last year was I had two students, and I I have a home garden. So I showed them what planting that seed, what does that look like from the seed, watching it every day. We watered it, we nurtured it. Um, I'm sorry, I'm reading what he said. But they got to do that. They got to even draw. He's funny. They got to draw and look at how that plant and that seed. I grew watermelon, so they got to see that. And then at the end, you get the experience that fruit of your labor of that you went out and you put the seed in the ground. We also did things like showing them even at those younger ages. They are in elementary school cooking. That's a part of science. So my way is not going to be we're going to sit here and do the boring part of just staring at this book, but how can we incorporate teaching them? Look how many children probably don't know ounces and gallons and all that kind of stuff. That's where I was taught. So I taught them in the kitchen how to prepare a little snack. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like different things we did in my enrichment. Yes, the library's component. They hadn't been to the library before. So what we might think is normal is not for a lot of children. They haven't had those experiences. So we got out into the community. We're a big volunteer family here. So, from me and my family. So I taught that to those children, but it was like a full wraparound, and that has to exist even with the parents so they can be on board.
Right.
And I can understand that. I just wanted to hear your approach to it because there's no set way of doing things. As Brother Kasna was saying, sometimes with liberated arts and things of that nature, you have to incorporate those things so you can draw out the best in that child. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. I tell you, then we are. I am so happy to have this panel, guys. I'm extremely excited about this program, Groove Swing Speaks. Now, I'm not sure whether we had Dr. Toni Miles Maloney give us her credentials because let's go there for a second, and then we will come back. We're going to tie all of this together. Dr. Toni, nobody can tell you a story as well as you can. You serve on several boards, okay? You are also a former uh, radio personality for over 20 years. I want you to tell us a little bit about Dr. Toni Miles Maloney, and we'll go around the panel. I'm so excited about this, ladies and gentlemen. Please, if you listen to us, I'm talking about the panelists, and I'm talking about our listening audience. Share this not only with grooves and swings, share with your friends, share with your fans, because this is a very, very important program because we bring on educators, business owners, health professionals. Think about it. And we have it right here on this network. And we are a network that want to promote the positive that's in our communities that mainstream media don't want you to know about. Dr. Maloney, I want you to tell your story. Tell us about the various boards that you work on and also your experience in radio.
Well, as I tell folks when I go out and I speak, my bio is an obituary of the things I've done, not the things that I'm going to. And, you know, all that is in the past that got me where I am now. Uh, yes, I was on the air for 20 plus years. Um, I had a show on from 10 to midnight, dealt with love, sex, relationship. From that, I blossomed into being the PR director for six yes to make sure that they were out beyond the brick and mortar, they were out in the community. Because, you know,
Okay, Dr. Maloney, you're breaking up a little bit, and let's see if we can correct that. Let's see if we
okay,
can break.
is
Okay,
that better?
okay, continue.
Better? Is
Let's
that
let,
better?
let's see. Continue.
Okay. So as I was saying, you know, I ended up doing PR for 6 radio stations, and to make sure that they got out in the community, because for some folks, radio personalities, just like TV personalities, are icons. They're bigger than life. You know, I know many times I had been in the grocery store, and I might have been talking to the cashier, and somebody would tap me on my shoulder and ask me, "Are you Justine Love?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." You know, I, I'm I'm trying to do grocery shopping. But out of that, I became entrenched very much in the community I live in. And, I'm a native Washingtonian. I've watched us change. I've watched how the gentrification has come. I don't
Oh
let
boy.
them forget that I was here before you. And, when they asked me, am I going to sell my house? I said, if I do, it will be like to someone that looks just like me.
That's
But
right.
to understand, that generational wealth has to stay. So, of the boards that I sit in, I am very passionate about women's reproductive rights. After Roe versus Wade,
Come on.
I don't know how a man is in my womb, not unless I allowed him in there.
Don't say that.
Um,
Say that. I
you
understand.
know, my sisters understand that. But
Well,
so I'm very passionate about that. But I'm extremely passionate about political issues. Um, which direction we're going in in our country. I have never missed an election. I've been voting when they dropped the voting age in
Come on now.
1972. I have voted in every election. And I can't empower people to understand enough that those midterm elections are more important
more
than
important.
general, that the
Yes.
big election, because
Preach.
they're the ones that set the goals and for what's going to happen, for how much money we get in our schools, how much money is going to go for seniors, how much
That's
money is going to go for healthcare. So but the 3 boards that I sit on currently are all about HIV and AIDS.
Okay.
And
Okay.
last night I was actually on a board call uh, that we were talking about what's happening with AIDS.
true.
So we don't hear the chatter about HIV and AIDS like we did.
That's right.
And but it's still disproportionately killing us.
Yeah.
So one of the boards I sit on is called Us Helping Us. It is the oldest one, excuse me, is one of the oldest Black male gay organizations. There are some brilliant men that are on that board. I am the only woman that sits on that board,
Mm.
the only straight woman that sits on that board. So I've learned so much about when you talk about uh um human sexuality, what goes on. So one of the conversations last night was the reason we don't hear a lot about HIV and AIDS is because we Black people are moving out of urban areas and moving to the suburbs. So because who's coming into our communities? The pilgrims. They have
That's right.
discovered the inner city and they're changing it. But the disease has not gone anywhere with fentanyl, and right now, we did such a great targeting of early prevention, with kids from the ages of 13 to 19, because we knew that they were risk takers. I mean, when I say they were risk takers, they were experimenting with their sexuality, whether it was with same sex or heterosexual sex, or old folks that was looking at young girls, old folks that were looking at young boys. So we saw a decrease, but right now what we're seeing is the ages of folks that are becoming infected now are between the ages of 29 and 40.
Hmm.
And now a lot of them are gay men, but we know that there are a lot of men that are on the down low and are infecting their wives.
Wow.
We know that, but we don't talk about that anymore. And so what we're seeing is a shift. So now they're even talking about, when you talk about HIV, people don't associate domestic violence with HIV.
Whoa. Oh, stop right there. I get. Whoa, 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 whoa. Wow. I'm blown away right now with what you just last said.
Well,
Domestic violence. Let's equate the two. Domestic
oh,
violence and HIV. How
okay.
does that correlate? Please share.
Well, if I'm living in a household, and we'll do it heterosexual first. If I'm living in a household that there is my partner is IV drug user,
Okay.
and, or doing fentanyl is the new buzz thing. So
Mm.
if they're drinking and drugging, and I'm in a household where he is the provider, and if I don't have that meal right, or I don't pay attention to him the way he wants, he's gonna hit me. Now I don't know when he goes out, like, well, where you going? You don't ask me where I'm going. I'm out. So I don't know what out means. Out could be out with the boys. Out could be with the boyfriend. Out
Mm.
could be with a prostitute. Out could be with a girlfriend who has another friend who was incarcerated. And so we get hit because of that. But I started off saying heterosexual, but I want you all to know that in same sex relationships, there is domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And people don't acknowledge that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
for my brothers that are, educating our children, especially tell our young boys, because see, they think because they see all the Marvel figures that they can beat up. Oh, ain't nobody gonna touch me because I'm gonna karate chop him. So if you're 50 pounds and the man is 200 pounds, who's gonna win?
Come on, sister.
I don't think it's gonna be you.
It's not equal, is it?
No, and again, we don't think that our boys are victims of domestic violence or sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I sit on that board. I sit on another board that is called the Women's Collective, that is the only in DC, the only women's uh, HIV support group or support. I mean, service provider, and that is because we've been focusing on gay men. But
Wow.
our sisters, men are we're the receptacle. We get what they give us. Okay.
Mm.
So many women are they're infected because again it's domestic violence. If he says, "Baby, I need you to hold these drugs," or they kill her. Uh, the young lady that went to Hampton, that went to jail, the Clinton pardon. You know, lovely young girl, didn't, sheltered family, went to jail because she held was holding drugs for her good boyfriend that she loved.
Wow.
So again, the risk factors are out there. It's not just the IV
Mm.
drug users. It's not just the the homosexual men. It's not
Mm.
just the transgender women and the transgender men. And I what I've learned is I don't care what your feeling is about human sexuality. You love who you love, and if you're uncomfortable with that, that's on you. But if your child comes to you and tells you that they like somebody of the same sex,
Mm.
do you
Mm.
take them through the same process of dating? Well, I want to meet that young man. I want to meet that young lady. I mean, do you all do that?
That is a great question, and
Just
I
tell
want
me
you to
what's
continue.
on.
I want you to continue, my sister. Today, as Muhammad, he says, in same-sex relationships, I know of and see way more girls abusing other women because they don't see an issue because they are both women. Your take on that, Doctor?
Well, it's that's what I was saying about same-sex relationships. There is, and if that's what you've learned, if that's what you've seen all
Wow.
your life, how do you make how do you know that that's not right?
Come on.
Because that's what you learned all your life. And and I have many friends and associates and weddings I have been to of same-sex couples. And
Mm.
and a lot of them do better than some heterosexual couples that I know.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you love who you love, but if you have the right tools and the skills, and we're honest and straightforward with our children and tell them the truth, I remember I've been doing HIV education for 40 years,
Mm-hmm.
and that's sad that disease has been around, because we went from the no, we started out with the IV drug users. No, I'm sorry. Let me get it right. It was the Haitians. Well, they look like us,
Mm-hmm.
but it was all the little folks that was going over to the Caribbean countries and having
Mm.
sex with the little boys or girls. Then some girls in Africa, the men would say if you had sex with a virgin, then you would be cured of AIDS. Then you
Yep.
had the IV drug users. Then you had the hemophiliacs. Then you had that heterosexual transmission with our AIDS babies that were abandoned in
You
homes.
know, you are stating facts here. Today, as Muhammad says, and the problem with incarcerated is that they get tested on the intake and not when they getting out. Your take on
Yeah.
that, Doctor?
Well, no, that's very true. That's why, they have lots of prison ministries. And then think about, where do they go when they come out? A lot of them are unhoused if they don't go to a halfway house, and you don't get to stay in a halfway house forever. So
Hmm.
you put back in the same environment that you came out of, and you might have turned your life around. But again, what happens is the influences affect you, and you get pulled back into that.
Mm.
It's very, you know, life is not for the weak at heart. When you really look at what's happening with folks in reference to their lives,
Mm.
you know,
No, I hear
folks
you loud and
are,
clear. What I'm saying, and another thing, and thank you, and I want you to continue because when we first heard about HIV and AIDS, remember when Magic Johnson came out, and how many years ago was that, right? And he was fortunate enough to have the money to get the cocktails, and I understand it was extremely expensive right then, and those drugs that helped him get over his dilemma was he had the money to do so, and
oh,
so the medication isn't so prevalent for people who can't afford that. The average person out here cannot afford uh, uh, or have the budget that someone like Magic Johnson has. Okay, let's get that. What I've noticed, Doctor Maloney, is that you don't even hear about HIV and AIDS anymore. Now, has it? It hasn't gone away, has it?
No, of course not. People are still participating in high risk behaviors,
Come on.
still having unprotected sex. But it's interesting. I was there when Magic joined was came on the National Commission for HIV and AIDS when I first met him. So, we had that conversation because everybody was wondering, well, how come Cookie didn't get infected? You know, you're right, he had the money, but the other disparity that we have when we talk about health is I don't know if anybody is taking any high blood pressure medicine, taking any medicine for diabetes, but it costs a whole lot of money to get. And if you got MS, oh my God, there's one pill that costs $6,000 a month.
That's ridiculous.
So
That is ridiculous.
what do we
And
do?
doctor, I hate to interrupt because I want you to continue. That drug shouldn't cost that much for anyone.
Well,
However, it's supply and demand. And the
Pharmaceuticals.
pharmaceutical companies, like you said, Clayton, what they want to do, look, they're going to pillage. Okay, I'm just going to use that word right now, and they really don't care about humanity. It's all about the mighty dollar, and you know good and well they've got enough money they can produce medication and or drugs that will be reasonable for everyone. But it's not that way. Doctor, continue.
you need to, if you all didn't see I think it was on HBO or Prime, one of the streaming channels,
Wow.
Painkillers. And that's all about how the opiate epidemic started. And the sick sacklers who are billionaires who are the ones that were supplying the money for the drugs, to
Hmm.
Yes,
drugs. You know, pharmaceutical companies all about business.
absolutely.
And
That's it.
it is big business. You know, for my brothers and sisters that are on this panel, thank God for Medicare,
Hmm.
but it's still a challenge because you know they say if you made so much money, before you retired, that you should be able to get these meds. Well, you can't because your
Hmm.
food is high. And then I'll tell you about the last board that I sit on is called Damien Ministries. And that was funded, it was started by a priest. And this priest took this followed the philosophy Saint Damien. And
Hmm.
Damien was a leper. And he would go into no, excuse me, he would go into the leper colonies to take care of them.
Okay.
And so Damien Ministries, their focus is they're making sure that we have access to drugs, we have access to food. Everybody is making sure that we're taking care of Maslow hierarchy of need: food, clothing, and shelter. But when you are living with the virus or any chronic health disease, it's it's hard. It's
Hmm.
hard. My sister went out to water her garden. I get it because I'm an urban farmer. I went out there, what I got in it, what I'm getting ready to pick.
Hmm.
But I love what I do. I'm passionate. Like my chapter here in DC, we adopted we adopted the Women's Collective. And so what we do every quarter, we go through our closets and we donate our clothes or any household things that we're not using, or we done bought something that was shinier and brand new. Wasn't nothing wrong with the one we had, but we donate it to them because those women are living with the virus. A lot of them are returning citizens that have come out of jail because they went to jail because of their good boyfriend, a good husband, you know, but they're still struggling and they got children.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to get access to your children once you've been incarcerated is difficult. Same thing for women that my brother that's in the military, you know, it is so hard for a woman when she comes back from serving to reconnect with her children. Now that's a tragedy.
Yeah.
It is.
And there are many homeless female veterans that people don't, we always talk about the veterans, and thank you for your service, brother.
You're welcome.
But there are female veterans that are unhoused, just like the men,
That is true.
that still have the same catastrophic problems that men.
Mm.
So
And you know what I see from a lot of that, sister? Excuse me for a minute. There's a lot of problems they do not want to solve
right.
because as long as they keep them going, that's going to always be a profit for a lot of those people.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Even when I was going through Desert Storm,
Mm.
it was told that Donald Rumsfeld, and I want to say a whole lot of bad things about him, but I want to keep my spirit clean. But on that side, they were saying that his company,
Adjust your camera, bro, so we can see more of you.
his company, they own the antidote to the bird flu. Now, a lot of these epidemics that we're dealing with, they are creating those for the sake of
Mm-hmm.
making money off them.
Mm.
They will have the antidote in their hands, but let's create the problem. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we have been going through time after time, epidemic after epidemic. Every time you turn around, there's something new popping up in our face, and believe me, there's
Wow.
something else is coming.
Wow.
Every year, every quarter, I don't know how often they do it, but trust me, there's another epidemic coming.
But COVID hasn't gone anywhere, y'all.
No, it has not. But no one talks about it anymore.
Yeah, well,
And I this thing about, oh, by the way, you guys don't want to miss next week program. Next week's program, and because we're going to talk about veterans and veterans benefits, because so many veterans aren't getting
right.
the subsidies
That is true.
or that they deserve.
That is true.
And guess what? There's nobody, there's no, and you go into, I guess, your VAs or what it is, and they're not telling you how to maximize your benefits. We have Brother Mark Daniels. He's going to lead up the program along with my brother Clayton next week. And we're going to talk about veterans and veterans benefits and how to maximize those things. Now, you would think that there's an office there that says, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that in order to maximize your benefits. And Dr. Maloney, there's no advocate in the government that's going to say, hey, you need to do certain things in order to get more out of what you are getting right now.
Well, that's supposed to be the Department of Veterans Affairs. But
Supposedly.
when
Come
but when
on.
but when you have that panel, I would just a suggestion. I would encourage you to reach out to Sister Founder Talma Brayboy because she is a veteran.
Put it in the chat, please.
Please put it in the chat. Let's write this down real quick. And that's sister.
And we have many sisters that are, you know,
Wow.
are in the military.
That is true.
Their experiences are very different than my brothers.
Okay. Well, we need to know about that. So you and I, we're going to talk. Okay. We really need to talk because we will get as many grooves. I mean, not only grooves, but swings, because
Yes.
this is Groove Swing Speaks. And we're connecting the dots around the globe, folks. So if you listen to us right now, please share this with your friends. Share this with your fellow men. Share this with your swing sisters, your fans, your children, and everybody, because this is a program that you really won't hear in a lot of places. Mainstream media is not going to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it here. And so I am so pleased to have you on, my sister, here, talking about whatever you want to talk about, because you're a wealth of knowledge, you have a wealth of experience, and anything else you want to say, I'm going to be quiet for right now and and talk to us. But thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Well, no, I appreciate being asked. One thing that I learned about being in the media is I know how to ask pointed questions,
Hmm.
but then I know how to listen because that was my job for many years, listening to folks call in telling me their problems. Now, I'm going to give you two scenarios that
Okay.
you realize that how much pressure I was under when I was on the air. So we all knew about the DC sniper,
Yes.
Muhammad and Lee Boyd Malvo. So, they circled all around. They were out there in Tacoma, Washington, and then they were out, they were in Louisiana. Oh, but every night that I would get off the air, I would talk to a sister that would ride with me from the studio all the way home. And every time I saw a white box truck, I'm like,
You're breaking up a little bit, sister.
okay,
Come closer, dude. Yeah, we want to hear what you have to say. We
Please.
really want to hear what you say. And then I want the panel to jump in here. Uh, Brother Kasna, Brother Rob, and Sister Tiffany, and we're all intrigued by what you have to say. So we've all been silent. So if you guys have any questions for this sister, please jump in. All right. But continue, my sister.
okay. So I was afraid, but then the other one that really changed my life because well, let me go back to Lee Val, John Muhammad and Malvo. I became very good friends with Mildred Muhammad, John Muhammad's wife, and I knew the kids, their kids. But that was all about domestic violence. She left him and he wanted to punish her.
Wow.
That was one. Then the other one, and I don't know if you all, because this did make national news. There was this sister, not a swing. There was a sister that used to work at the Sprint store. Her boyfriend came in with a bottle of soda that had gasoline in it. He opened it up, sprinkled it on her, and set her on fire.
Wow.
His best friend called me on the air to tell him, because he knew he used to listen, to turn himself in. Well, I got to meet that sister. And I mean, again, that's about domestic violence.
Yeah.
How can you burn somebody up? I mean, what is on your brain to do that? But sisters, you're not off the hook because there are many women that are guilty of harming, hitting, hurting men. Because what were we taught? Men don't hit women, but women were never taught that you don't hit a man. You shouldn't hit a man. We weren't taught that. Well, I wasn't taught that. But those are the two biggest things that I remember while I was on the air. And I mean, I had many guests, that came because, my show was combination of music and the conversation. And a lot of the, artists that came in would sit, in and answer questions when people would call in. So it was a journey. I loved it. I'm glad I don't work for nobody but me anymore.
We understand that. Now, you asked the question, what would make a person do something like that? Uh, hurt people, as they
Oh,
say.
amen. Amen.
Yeah. And you get to a point where I believe they lose hope. Their life gets to be meaningless. So I don't know if they validating themselves through trying to belittle somebody else and making them feel less than. So you go to just hurting that person next to you, the one that loves you the most.
Well, that's because when they were growing up, they were victims.
Could be, yeah.
Oh yeah, as you said, hurt people,
Victim or
and
something, yeah.
you see that in children. You know, when you see a child acting out in class, he is seeking attention. You know, negative attention is still attention,
Right.
and they just want somebody to look at me, value me, you know, and don't hurt me. You know, because many children are hurt, and they turn out to be hurt adults.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
see a whole lot of people just their ears are up, and I know you have some questions to ask the sister. Please chime in.
Yeah, there was a lot to take in, but it was very poignant and it's very informative, especially when it comes down to issues when it comes down to relationships and people, families, when it comes down to toxic situations. And my question, and obviously nobody really has the full answer for this, but what specifically do you think would be a solution to make sure that people don't continue down the path of being in any bad relationship, or and in which case it was a relationship that they could thrive in? What would be like? What would be some of the solutions from the good doctor?
well, I would be rich if I could give you a template for that.
Yeah.
But part of it is that, again, it is a learned behavior. Unfortunately, for us as women, we have been taught that if I don't have a man to validate me,
Mm.
I'm not good. I'm not worthy.
Wow.
What a tragedy.
Mm.
You know, then there are women that are strong and you know how to do things themselves. Oh well, you know, she's intimidating, or she's, you know, she's a witch, or she's that, or you know, like,
Hmm.
but everybody wants somebody to love them and need them. And
Mm. True.
we just take what's given to that's presented itself to us and thinks that things are right. And it's not right. You know, you could be dead in jail or on the therapist's couch. It's very difficult, you know, and sometimes being by yourself and having a relationship with yourself can be the best thing in the world.
Isn't that something? There is let's see who put that out. Tiffany, did you cover this? She said there's a new STD out now.
STIs, let's call them what they are: sexually transmitted infections.
Wow. Come on, talk about it. And it's not talked about. And uh, a lot of these, there was something I saw on Facebook, and it was talking about these hot, sexy sisters, especially out in Atlanta and around, and these guys are, seeking these women, and a lot of them are highly infected.
Hmm.
What is
You
it?
know,
STD Gardnerella?
repeat that.
Is it Gardnerella?
I don't know what the term is. I don't know what the name is. I have no information except for what I see. But I think that and we look at these things and say, "Oh man, that's hot." Oh my goodness! But you have no idea what you're looking at, because sometimes that picture does not reflect what's really happening out there. I want brother Robert, brother Kasna. Hey, guys, jump in there. Whatever questions you have for this brilliant sister right here, hey, jump right on in right now. Brother Cosner, any questions, any comments?
Well, yeah, definitely. I know that we mentioned earlier how some of the behaviors that we kind of exhibit are start from a childhood. Something that has, you
Mm-hmm.
know, whether it's learned behavior, something that we experience ourselves, or something that we've seen in our
Mhm.
early immediate environment. Um, and so I would just, can you just speak a little bit more about that direct connection? Because I've always been intrigued with, I've always been intrigued by documentaries and how certain people are the way they are,
Why do
as
they
a
stay?
direct reflection of their childhood and how that kind of evolves as they become adults. And so, how crucial is it, would you say, in having these type of conversations, with our children, so that they are
Wow.
more better and more equipped to be able to handle these issues as they get older and how to navigate through society?
Well,
Great question.
we already know that our children watch everything we do.
Don't they?
Everything we do. So if you're doing something that is inappropriate, you know, uh, here's a good example. So, marijuana is legal in DC, but it's in your house. You can grow it, but in your house or in your yard. But you drive down the street and the weed is so strong because they walk down the street like it's a cigarette. So you gonna tell
Yeah.
your child not don't smoke weed, and you doing the puff puff pass.
Also, it is legal in Maryland as well. I think.
And in Virginia,
So
California, Oregon.
Not that saying we're just quoting the news, basically in the area. That's what we're telling you.
exactly.
That's right.
So
Oh my goodness.
so our children see that when when you hear a mother say, "Well, you just like you're no good daddy." Well, you slept with him.
That's right.
You slept with him. And
You-
for my brothers that like all the all the big breasts and the big booties and the
yeah.
Cardi B looking girls, let me tell you something. If you fool enough to bankroll her, shame on you. Give me some of that cash.
There's a
But
lot of truth to
see
that.
that. They see that.
That is truth. That is
They
truth.
see
It is
all of
incredible. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. Like you said, if you stupid enough to bankroll her, guess what? You get what you pay for, right?
exactly. So here's the perfect example of the family that
Mm.
breeds and everybody idolize these girls. I think it starts with a K and it ends with a S. So who you think they learn that behavior from?
Oh my God. It's like
They
buying fake
mommy.
gold.
They mommy.
You bought it. So I guess what? You bankrolled it. Hey Tiffany, you look
Yes,
quiet over there, sister. Jump on right on here. Uh,
I was looking up. I was trying to find the new STI that I had seen. I think it was last week, and it's a sexually transmitted fungal infection,
mm.
and it's a sexually transmitted ringworm called by a
What?
certain fungus, and
That
it
don't sound good.
yes, and they say that it says some fungal infections can be passed on sexually. These include thrush, jock itch, but around the genitals, and
I'm sorry.
inflammation of the end of the penis.
Yeah.
Wow. I saw brother Robert when you said that.
You
I
just
saw
put
brother
that
Robert
in there. I
kind of
knew it's going to do that.
There's always
So
something. And
so
that's
wait a
what
minute.
that's what I was alluding to at first.
oh
It,
my
it
goodness.
seems like every time we try to figure something out, they move the goalposts. There's something always coming up that's brand new.
Oh,
Now,
that ain't brand new.
The point
I
here
know
is
it may not be brand new, but it's new
Oh
to a
my
lot of
goodness.
us because the fact is,
Oh my
where are
goodness.
all these things coming from?
Oh
Are they
my.
Well,
created for destruction? I believe so.
Are they created in a lab? I
well,
don't know.
well, let,
whatever is
let,
the
well, let-
whatever it basically is the it's just a variant. Just
right.
like we heard that there are variants of
That's
COVID,
exactly right.
Okay.
variants of various other diseases. It's just another variant of it. The
It
main
is.
thing
Because
is basically make sure you're protected, making sure you're clean inside and outside.
right.
Okay, brother Hicks, but this variant, now here I am in my 60s, and all of a sudden this variant pops up after so many years.
No.
Uh,
So
where
it
was
can
it?
lie
No,
dormant.
no, it didn't pop up. It's like a migration.
Okay, I'm
Well,
being
that's because
educated. Somebody talk to me.
Okay, okay,
well, that's
doctor.
because we use antibiotics just
Ooh.
as random. So we build up an immunity to that. But for my brothers, let me give you a little sexual health for if
Mm.
you have anything on your penis and you're not circumcised, and if you don't pull the foreskin back, all that little white gunk that's up there that
Ooh.
smells funky is called smegma.
It's
Okay,
And
called what now? Spell it.
smegma, smegma. So if you have sons and you have not had them circumcised, you got to teach them boys to pull that foreskin back, clean up underneath the, I call it the fireman's helmet,
that's
you
true.
know, to clean up there because they're perspiring. They're wearing, if they're playing sports, they're wearing that jock strap or they're wearing the cup.
Oh my goodness.
And if you don't do good personal hygiene,
Come on.
you don't know. I always hear men would say, "Oh, she smell like fish." Well, y'all be funky too now.
No, get out of here. Say it
Well,
isn't so. That,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we could do a whole session.
and
That's the whole show
you're
right
true,
there.
doctor, and I don't disagree with you.
Mm,
My statement is like I mentioned before.
Oh my
I
goodness.
don't disagree with you, but you
Oh my
have to
goodness.
understand where I'm coming from. Every year, there's something brand new coming forth.
Mm.
it's just a
That's what I'm
different
saying.
name, brother.
And I'm listening to my niece in the background, and I believe it's man made as well
Well,
for the sense of destroying us,
wow.
which will destroy you and the whole population. Now, I wanted to, that's for another discussion,
Oh my
but that's
goodness.
where I stand on that.
Oh my
Do you
goodness.
agree with that?
Uh, something I do, but the science part in me, I'm very much about science.
Okay.
Because I knew Clorox, ingesting Clorox for COVID was a
See, you had to
but
do that.
You had to go there, didn't you?
but
Yeah.
that's what
You-
that's what we don't question or ask our primary physicians
uh,
enough questions about our health. We take that prescription, they gave it to us,
yeah.
and we need to have a conversation
You
with them.
do.
And we don't do that. I mean, some of it is because we don't want to seem like we're dumb.
I'm
But
sorry.
you know what, William?
Yes,
Here's
darling.
from we went from we've gone the whole gamut, but it's still
Let's
all
do
about
it.
education.
Right.
But
Yes.
one time, and you tell me when we can have a human sexuality course on the radio on
Let's
this
do
show
it.
about to answer the questions that men and women need to know. We need to know why that penis curves to the left.
Yes.
We need to stop telling boys that she ain't break it off because there ain't no bones in the penis.
I'm sorry, sister. Please forgive me. Go ahead.
So, doctor,
Continue.
let me
No,
ask
I
this
want to hear
question.
more.
I want to tie into what she's saying. It goes back to the question I asked earlier, and I was asking Kasna as well. When do you get to the point where you start to incorporate these real world
God.
issues into your education,
From the
giving them
womb,
a free?
from the womb, when they come out the
That's
womb.
exactly right.
Okay,
Right.
so when they go, let's start to talking to the people that can make that happen, because education to me, they want it to be localized instead of national, because you need to start having a mandate where everybody's being taught the same thing. You talked about structure, but from state to state, city to city, everybody's not being taught the same thing.
Well,
Some people are so far behind the others that they're playing catch up from 10 years ago.
Well, yeah. I mean, here's a good example. When I was going into the classrooms doing human sexuality education with kids, uh, I would have girls and boys tell me, if you take your finger, stick it in your ear, pull some ear wax out, put it in, take your finger and put it in her vagina. If she jumped, she got an
Oh,
STD. Now, is that the most?
wow.
That's some earwax.
Wow.
Right. How do we
But
go from the ear
I
to
don't
the
even know
vagina?
how we got there, but it's education. It's education just the same.
well, yeah. I mean, you
Oh,
surprised how many.
oh
I
my
had one little
goodness.
girl that her mother wanted her on birth control pills, and she got pregnant, and she said, "Well, I took my pill every day." I said, "Well, show me how you took the pill." She took the pill out the case and held it in her hand. But
Stop.
what's wrong with that? Nobody told her to put it in her mouth and ingest it.
Oh, that is incredible.
But it's
Wow.
incredible that I don't understand
Ooh.
when women tell men to take out the trash, that y'all take out the trash, but you don't put a trash bag back into the trash can.
Come on, doctor.
Wow. I guess it's
Oh
all
my
about how you
goodness.
articulate and make sure
But
you
today
complete.
was trash day on where I live, so I guess that pretty much that was the case.
Oh
Okay,
my goodness.
you can put a trash bag back in the trash can.
Yes, I did.
Oh,
Okay, very good. Do you put the sink down?
hey, hey, Dr. Miles, Dr.
Yes.
Toni Miles Maloney, would you promise to come back on Groove Swing Speaks? Would you promise me that you're going to come back on?
Of
Because it's
course.
been enlightening, it's been entertaining. We've had a funny moments, but also very serious
Yes.
moments here.
Yes.
And
Oh,
Cosner, my brother, please promise me that you're going to come back on this network, and both of you are going to share this with your friends, your fans. Now, go to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe. That is Studio W, The Buzz. Like, subscribe, please share it. Would you, both of you, would you please come back?
I hope
of
so.
course we will.
Definitely, of course, of course.
Oh my
Yeah, we're gonna
God.
do when hormones moan. And, and, and then
I truly
Hey,
enjoyed both of you. I
Dr.
learned a lot.
Maloney,
Yes, please come back.
let me go back to Dr. Maloney for a second. Have you ever done stand up comedy?
uh well, I did something when I did something with the Real Housewives of Potomac.
Okay,
Uh,
then.
but there's so many stories, and for my vintage sisters and brothers, that's a whole segment about dating after 60.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
That's a whole different story because your values are different. You cannot do what you know. uh, My brothers, y'all lied on your penises a lot about it. Oh, I went all last. I broke her back. I'm like,
Oh my God.
You don't have to tell all our stories, please. You can cut it out.
but
You are incredible.
I got
Dr.
stories about
Tony,
us,
Dr.
about
Tony,
women.
Dr. Tony,
Yes.
Miles Maloney. You're a trip.
No, I just speak the truth.
What? You're still a trip. Thank you. And as a matter of fact, we've had several conversations off air, and I've enjoyed each and every one of you. Tiffany, last words. Then we're going to Robert, Brother Clayton, and Russ.
I think we
I
still
mean,
have
Cosner.
Sister Muhammad is on, correct?
Sister Muhammad, where is she?
She went to
She's
water her garden.
Yeah, she's working in her garden right now.
Okay.
Okay, all right. But anyway, it's Sister Tiffany. This has been. Um, we've had so many great grooves, so many great swings on, and I'm gonna tell you right now, we've even had Dr. Rowe. We've had Ahmad McDougal,
McDougal.
Christopher Booker, brother. How many? So many.
And I believe our illustrious president, he came out of Grambling as well, correct?
That's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
she did.
Yes.
That's right.
He,
Yeah,
he introduced me to the organization back when I
Right
was
on.
18 years
we've
old.
had so many. We have so many great grooves and swings on here, and Dr. Tony. Okay, I don't want to offend. Well, it's not offensive because they've all been great, but I thoroughly enjoyed this one.
Harold Reed.
Harold
Al
Reed Jr.
Richard, yes.
Oh my goodness! Like Brother Robert said, this is our 20th episode. We just started in February, and
Uh-huh.
so Dr. Tony, you got to come back on. You've got to come back. Oh God,
I heard
you
he
are
title.
incredible. You're great,
Well,
genius,
thank
and hilarious. Tiffany, your
Yes.
final word.
I just want to say thank you both for coming in on tonight and sharing with us, sharing with the world
Great.
what you guys do and the whole educational aspect of it. I'm definitely looking forward to the next conversation with Dr. Maloney, especially with the whole sex ed, because it's a lot that we don't know. You know
right.
what I mean? That people should be aware of, and whether it's sexually active or not, it's just being made aware. Therefore, if you don't need the information for yourself, you can share it with others. So I'm definitely looking forward to that conversation. And thank you. It was a pleasure, Fellowman Kasna, speaking with you on tonight. So I appreciate both of you guys. Thank you.
It's been absolutely amazing. And then, hey, brother Cosner,
Yes, sir.
your take.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I had an amazing time. Some familiar faces that I haven't seen in a while, and so it's good to see everybody. Living well, being healthy. And just kind of count our blessings every day that we wake up and before we go to bed, because tomorrow's not promised. So let's try to live our best life as much as we can, and make sure that we love ourselves and love the people who are around us. And I
That's
think that
right.
this platform, is, a medium to be able to spread that love. So I appreciate y'all.
Thank you for that.
Truth.
And we want you and our dear sister, Dr. Toni Miles Maloney, to come back on.
Yes.
Please tell us you guys are going to come back on because we thoroughly enjoyed you. Great information. And Dr. Maloney, I know you have a whole lot more to say. You have a whole
Oh, oh yeah. I, all one cycle. It's full cycle. And as we say, let us not let the circle be unbroken.
and let's do it.
Thank you.
No, we connected dots here, darling, around the globe. Groove Swing Speaks. Brother Robert, your take.
Yes. I would say one of the better episodes we have ever had. Thank you very much, Dr. Tony and Toni Kasna, for being here tonight. And also, just a reminder, Conclave is happening July 18th to 21st. And one of the special events that take place, especially when it comes down to youth, is called YES. YES, the Youth Empowerment Summit. That's something that started by Felman Kasna Maat Ra and his team. It is definitely a program that you want your sons to be a part of because it transforms them. A lot of the Felman get together, give speeches, and you definitely want to be a part of. You definitely want to have your child a part of it. I
Right.
definitely I've seen a few of them, and I definitely concur. It is definitely the program. So be at the conclave. Best be there and see it.
Indeed. Thank
And
you for listening,
Sister
guys.
Sabora, back from the garden. Hey, darling, what would you like to share?
That was a lot to unpack. I couldn't jump in because my hands was busy. But yeah, this is definitely a conversation that could be furthered, different aspects. So I wasn't
That's
able to
right.
jump in. Not necessarily disagreeing, but it's a lot to unpack. And I think
It
that's
is.
just, we just kind of reached the surface. But at the end of the day, we have to stop being lazy. There's lots of ways to find out a lot of information, especially in this technology world. We got Google, and we do have to teach our children, but of course we got to know first. So what does that look like? We're always looking at who is saying it in those divides versus looking at what they really have to offer in their backgrounds and their knowledge. Their knowledge, because all the time, everyone necessarily might not have uh, that letter, but
Mhm.
that doesn't mean they're not knowledgeable.
That's exactly right.
Mhm.
Okay. Brother Clayton?
Yes, and thank you all for showing up, Sister Sador, um, and the doctor, the great doctor, and the brother Kasna Maat Ra. I appreciate what you have poured into me because I'm always like a sponge. I want to soak up that information that you guys are giving out. Like the sister said, there's so many different ways and avenues that you can learn
Hmm.
something. And I love what you have brought to the table today. I appreciate what you all are doing for us educating our youth and our adults. So you guys keep on doing what you're doing, and we love you for it. And for all the people that's on the panel, it's a great thing that we're doing. Let's keep it going. Let's keep the energy. Peace and blessings to each and every one of you.
And keep in mind, we are connecting the dots around the globe. Groove Swing Speaks right here on this network 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with the finest in broadcasting anywhere around the globe. So tell your friends about it. Don't keep it a secret. Dr. Toni Miles Maloney, brother Kasna, my aunt. Okay, Ra, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
And
you.
the panel, thank you guys so much. Brother Robert, Sister Tiffany, my brother Clayton, and thank you so much. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Sister Rock, that's behind the scenes.
Thank you, Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Outstanding, outstanding, outstanding. What a great
I
sister.
also see that my sister, my blood sister, Emma Brown, she has chimed in. We appreciate you as well. We love you, sister. God bless, and all the family. Peace.
Hey guys, enjoy your Tuesday.
Take care.